folks, what's up? This is Michael in the Graveyard Shift with your daily trivia question. Yet once again in the wee hours of the night where it's nice and quiet, there's nobody around, and I'm getting a whole lot of work done that way. Quite frankly, happy Tuesday, folks. It's a terrific Tuesday for a terrific group of people. That's what I'm talking about. So the answer to the previous trivia question was, of course, MTV. I want my MTV, music television. So on August 1st of 1981, MTV Music Television goes on air for the first time ever with the words, quote, "Ladies and gentlemen, rock and roll." And they played the first ever video in the history of music television called "Video Killed the Radio Star" by a great group of the time called the Buggles. It was a great group, great music. I love this era. So in MTV's early days, its programming consisted of basic music videos. What a novel idea, right? They were introduced by people called VJs. This was a new concept, video jockeys. And the videos were actually, a lot of people don't know this, were provided for free by the record companies. The record companies gave videos to MTV on this kind of trial pilot run basis, right? Now, what's really funny is, and I remember these days, occasionally while you were watching MTV, the screen would go completely black. And this was because the original VJs, they had to insert VHS tapes into a VCR in order to change the videos. That's a true story. I remember those days of watching MTV, and that happened. You talk about ancient techniques. And as the record industry recognized MTV's value as a huge promotional vehicle, tons and tons of money became invested in making creative, cutting-edge videos. And as this concept exploded onto the scene, before long, you as a music artist had to make a video and submit it to MTV for circulation if you wanted to be successful. It became a staple of the industry, and MTV set this standard and basically reinvented the industry, and remarkably so, in a remarkable fashion. Within months of an MTV video airing for the first time, record stores were selling music that were not playing on local radio stations. That's something else that MTV kind of a niche that they kind of carved out. And suddenly, before you knew it, everyone in the entire world was saying, "I want my MTV," and buying those "I want my MTV" t-shirts. I think I have one of those classic MTV t-shirts. I know I have one of those Headbanger Ball t-shirts. I sure do. MTV became instrumental in promoting the careers of performers without question. And this included artists like Madonna, Michael Jackson, Prince, Duran Duran, just to name a few, and who these videos played in heavy rotation. And it has been said, and it has been asserted by many talking heads out there, that these people would not have made it as big as they became had it not been for MTV. MTV went internationally very quickly, and it has also been documented historically that they were responsible for a new age of British invasion of music of sorts, and I do truly believe that. Now, by the late 1980s, as we all know, let me say this, by the late 1980s, MTV developed a reputation for even pushing cultural boundaries and tastes with their videos. Some of them were actually banned from MTV, if you could believe it or not. I think one example was Madonna's "Like a Prayer," I think, if my research serves me correctly. Okay, I think that was a little too dicey. I think MTV considered banning it, or either did ban it, and I think MTV banned a video from Motley Crue. And this, of course, played right into the whole concept, really, of MTV and how they reinvented the music industry, because it just made these artists even more popular, quite frankly. So let's do a couple of timelines here. In 1984, MTV would go on to launch their own music video awards show, which is still a huge event to this day. And in 1992, they launched MTV Movie Awards, which I think they still have that ceremony as well. Now, during this time, as we all know, MTV started airing non-video reality series programming. And this included things like The Real World, The Osbournes, The Hills, which was my favorite. Don't tell anybody, but I love watching The Hills. I was addicted to The Hills. But we'll keep that between the two of us. And, of course, Beavis and Butthead, which was just, that was like junk TV as far as I'm concerned. But it was huge. It was popular. Now, as we all know, in the years since its inception, that's all they play now is reality shows. And this includes like the teen pregnancy is huge, and so just nothing but reality shows. Quite frankly, you hardly ever see videos. Videos that do get played on MTV are an occasional classic loops of sorts. And I'm going to tell you, folks, when this comes on, I still enjoy cranking my volume up and just love that whole era. A couple of geek factoids: since early 2020. MTV has devoted most of its programming schedule to a single program called Ridiculousness, which is like a blooper show, etc. And in June of 2020, this aired for 113 hours of the network's entire 168-hour lineup. I found that in my research, and I'm sure COVID had something to do with that because MTV's in New York City. New York City was on shutdown. That was probably the only thing that they could manage to play over and over again. But nonetheless, they're still devoting that most of their programming schedule to that one single program now, in addition to a few other reality shows. You can view, this is cool, you can view the very first 2 hours of the debut of music television on YouTube from that historic day, August 1st, 1981. And if you get a chance, you should really check out that cool piece of history. And back in the early days, you could see the Buggles, Video Killed the Radio Star. Pat Benatar was the second music person played on MTV ever, and then it went from there. Like The Who, those were like the top 3, top 5, of course. Now, let me tell you a little something about MTV. MTV is the reason why I am a metalhead, without question, to this day. These were the early days in the early 80s of like Motley Crue, Def Leppard, Quiet Riot, Twisted Sister, all those. Can I get a shout out from my fellow metalheads of that era? They were the reason why I became a metalhead, and I would just sit like a zombie in front and wait for these favorite metal hard rock bands to play in circulation. And of course, Headbangers Ball came along, and then that was all there was for me. And I could tell you how influential MTV was when Headbangers Ball would play on Saturday nights for 3 hours. The next morning, on Sunday, I was down at the record store buying most of what I watched on MTV. So there you go. There's a perfect example. But if you do get a chance, check out those first historic 2 hours of MTV on YouTube. All right, folks, let's keep the week going, shall we? For August 2nd, brand new trivia question. On this day in 1858, the first of these first-class inventions were installed on the streets in the Boston and New York City areas, manufactured by a Philadelphia iron company and built into street lamps. You guys can figure this out. Have a good Tuesday. Have a terrific Tuesday, folks. And take it easy on yourselves. Thanks for all you do. Peace out.